So first, I think I've said that, Julie, the time is 7 o'clock on Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. I'd like to call this Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting to order. Land acknowledgement. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation to the Aurora community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Let it be. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you. All those in favor? Great. Are there any questions or comments on the agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda. Sorry. Okay. Thanks, Owen. Thanks. Who's seconding? Thank you. Did I miss anything, Julia?
Through you, Chair Gardner, were you referring to the receipt of the minutes with this last
okay. I was on the agenda, so.
Because I do believe we had Owen and Lil.
That's right, we did.
Thank on the agenda.
Thank you so much. So it's an approval of the minutes.
Sorry, Lil.
Were there any questions on the minutes? No? All those in favor? Thank you. And I forgot to ask if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest. Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed. We have no delegations this evening. We do have one matter for consideration. We have a presentation from Ryan Wong, who is the program manager, and Anson Wong, senior transportation specialist, sustainable transportation, urban design, transportation infrastructure, asset management, and public works, the municipality of York. Thank you. That's a big job. Okay. Would you like to begin?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair and Committee, for having us this evening. We're excited to provide an update on a project that we're working on in the town of Aurora. No problem. But this,
Yes, so it's that's correct.
this button?
Yes, that's correct. We'll have it right for the pages.
So as a quick agenda, I'll go over identification of the York Region Transportation Master Plan, some project background details. We can go through a little bit of the design and some design considerations that we've taken into, and then some next steps.
Thank you.
So our 2022 Transportation Master Plan on the left shows the regional road network generally aligns with the concession blocks and the roads, the regional roadway. The map 2 on the right-hand side shows trails of regional significance. The project that we want to provide an update to the committee tonight is we call it A1, and it's located on Bayview Avenue between Van Dorp Side Road to Wellington Street. This project will consist of a 3-meter, 2-directional asphalt pathway that can be used by cyclists and pedestrians. We're going to go through a quick run through of the design that we're looking at. So starting on the southern edge or southern limits of the project, we're at Bayview and Van Dorp Side Road. So on the northwest corner of this intersection, north is facing right on the page. We have Treasure Hill, which is redeveloping that corner. So part of that redevelopment, as Treasure Hill is grading out that property, we're relying on their project development to grade out some of the boulevard so that we can put our multi-use path on.
Sorry, is that on the south or the north side? On the west side?
West corner.
Northwest.
Of Van Dorp and Bayview.
Okay.
So part of this project, we're working within the current right-of-way, and that also includes working around the existing utilities. So you'll notice that unlike a road reconstruction project where we rip out the entire road and we move the curbs and we move the sewers and we at that point move the utilities, this project, because we're kind of coming in with the road existing, with the curbs existing, it will meander a bit around utilities, and that's to save time, save costs, and to expedite the project. As we move a little bit further north, on the left-hand side of the page, you'll notice that we're proposing some pedestrian handrails. That's because the topography beside the MUP is a little bit steep. Also, because of the grading and the water course or the drainage, we're also putting in 2 culverts on the right-hand side of the page. We're also making some modifications at the crossings of the roadway. That includes putting in pavement marking plans, also putting in tactile plates at the curb depressions where the path meets the intersection. And we'll also be modifying the radii of the curb. We've already circulated the preliminary design to city staff. We're currently at 90% detailed design. We've received comments back and provided responses. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Are there any questions, committee? Yes?
Go ahead.
So was it 2 years ago or a year ago, I had raised concerns about lighting, especially for, safety and so on. So I know it might be a little bit tricky because from what I remember on the northwest side, isn't there like a ravine or there's a dark wooded area, isn't there? No, is that a little,
You're thinking further south, where the existing path is.
is it further south?
Yeah.
Cause I thought that there's a little grove there. Anyways, so when you say that it will go around utilities, are we also accounting for the lighting aspect to increase the lighting in that area perhaps?
So as part of this project, lighting isn't part of the design.
Yeah.
Usually how we deal with lighting is we work with the municipality, and if the municipality is interested in lighting, we'll work with them. So I'll show you another slide that shows another standalone project that further to the south. That's between just north of Stonewall Road to Bloomington. So that project is within the city limits of the city of Richmond Hill. Through that project, again, we circulated, and at the time of, I believe, 30% or 6%, they came to the table to ask us to, on their behalf, construct lighting. So lighting is usually municipal responsibility. We usually provide lighting at regional intersections, but for mid-block lighting, it's usually deferred to the municipality to make the decision. In the project case for Richmond Hill provided funding for us to construct lighting on their behalf. And then once the project's completed, there's a maintenance agreement that's signed over that they will then take on ownership and maintenance of the illumination for mid-block.
That sounds sensible.
Is it possible though, after the fact, so not at the time of construction, but after the fact, to go back and add the lighting? Given you talked about the radii and so on.
Yes, I think so. I think that like illumination can be provided after the fact.
Yeah.
If the city is interested. But it can't be accommodated in this project.
Yeah.
Alright, no problem.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so first question. As it relates to where you're starting your project, there, the existing housing has already started. I know you said that you're dependent upon the developer to grade the boulevard. Typically that's done as part of the grading works. This was an existing subdivision, so I don't know if you have a timeline or the region has a letter of credit to ensure. I'm just worried about your construction start time, because if you depend on developer to grade the boulevard, you'll be waiting a long time unless you put requirements within the subdivision agreement or included it, in some other form. It's my first comment as it relates to future grading, where the existing housing is going up and housing has started there. Actually quite quick, because I drive by, often. The other question I also raised is I look at when I see street signs to be salvaged. Typically in my experience, you can't salvage anything when you go to remove, 4x4s or signs, whatever, they should be full replacement, just because they'll break and then you get into extras as you move forward. So there should be no salvage of anything, as far as I'm concerned, as part of this project. As it relates to lighting, I'm very disappointed in York Region again, that they've taken the position that street lighting is not their obligation. I am not aware that there's a written agreement between Aurora and the York Region that stipulates that lighting between intersections is a responsibility of the township. Again, I'll refer to Michael if there's an agreement. I think it is the responsibility of York Region to implement it. It's a York Region road and they need to provide lighting. Town of Aurora is moving forward with Young Street. Okay, so Young Street, I know this as part of approvals. York Region always requires when municipalities move forward with projects to implement street lighting. So I object, I disagree with this. Here on Bayview, that is a town responsibility. Our funding is limited here. And again, I think York Region should reconsider and provide lighting in actually the entire stretch. Now, again, people may not be aware, but this is part of the lake to lake extension that they're trying to do. And I support it wholeheartedly, but again, as part of the rest of the corridor where you noted that it's poorly lit, I think it needs to be lit. And that's just, my position here as a resident. I disagree with York Region's position. And again, there is no agreement in place that I'm aware of as it relates to street lighting. I think that's it as it relates to this project. Those are really my main concerns as it relates, and I'm glad to see it more. Actually, one more thing. So are you including signage? Because that's the other issue that we typically have with these. In my experience with multi-use pathways, especially now that we have scooters going all over the place, and I know each municipality is now dictating, they're coming up quick, and I know residents like to walk. I've heard enough complaints that saying cyclists / scooters shouldn't be on these, so I don't know what proposed signage or, is being proposed for here. But I like pavement markings at the beginning of any of these entrances, right at the intersections, just to distinguish. So people understand. I know you're doing it at the crossings, which is great at the residential roads, but I think we do need signage, which minimizes cost, because again, pavement markings are an annual thing that you typically have to do. So I'd like to see some signage as part of this project, and actually the rest of the board, or I leave that up to York Region to make that determination. I think that's it as it relates to this, but well done. I'm glad to see that it's moving forward and leaving the lake to lake. I'm hoping it's a someday to write it. It would be nice.
Thank you. Those were great comments. Anybody, Owen?
Yeah, Wendy, I just more for town, I know for the town more than for the region in terms of that pathway, because it's considered a shared pathway, is seasonal. It doesn't get cleared in the winter. But it's now a connection. If we're making the connection, we should service it year round. So we should be looking at snow and ice clearing on the path, so it can be used.
Good idea. Anybody want to respond to that?
Okay,
No,
I was gonna add one more thing to it. So that's important. No, I agree. That's something I missed. So my understanding is that this multi-use pathway will be the responsibility of York Region in terms of ownership, or is the intent to give it to the town of Aurora to maintain?
That's a good question. I think that's contingent on, so maybe I can provide another policy update. So in June of this year, the regions put forth our regional council adopted a policy that regional staff have been working on. Possibly 2 transportation master plans ago, there was overwhelming interest from our municipal partners to have the region play a more active role in ownership and maintenance of cycling facilities. We've brought a report to council, and that policy requires municipalities to opt in. So that question regarding whether or not the region would own and maintain this cycling facility is contingent on whether or not the town is interested in opting into that policy. If they are opting into the policy, then most likely this is one of the first segments that the region will start to own and maintain. But if the town is not interested in opting in, then that facility would be transferred to the town for ownership and maintenance.
So I have a follow-up.
Go
And
ahead.
this, or Wendy, I think those considerations have impact to the operating budget of the town. And I know right now you guys are in discussions about 0% tax increase. So I just raise it with you because again, these are issues that, again, take on the obligation as a deeper pockets that would say York Region does and should make. My personal opinion is it is a regional road and it should be maintained and operated by York Region. Sorry, until such time the town takes ownership of the regional road, responsibility, including street lighting, is, in my opinion, shouldn't belong to York Region. And I state that here. And up to you, Wendy. Again, it's up to council ultimately to make that decision. But you have a perspective from a resident.
Thank you. It's an important perspective, and I agree with you. Yes, Mr. Fleck.
Thank you, through the chair, to York Region. Thank you for this. This is great. I love to see these missing links that we have built. I've been pleasantly surprised recently. I've been out riding. I came across the crosswalk on the cross ride on Yonge Street, just north of St. John's side road a couple weeks ago. That was nice to see, and also the multi-use. I think that's a temporary lane going north on Yonge. These are wonderful to see when you're out for a ride. You're going, wow, this is great. We're getting missing links built. So to see this physically come to pass is great. I would concur with Lil and Gino on the lighting. Like let's do this right. Like let's do it right from the get-go. Like if we can. Because, you know, we will see increasing population in the area. This is not like a super dense area for population in Aurora, but you know, people could potentially use this to, I don't know, access the GO train station if they wanted. If they live in Archer Hill, and I know we had one meeting on this previously when we were talking about Archer Hill, and it was, I think it was Klaus was saying that people could ride from, you know, Archer Hill through Shepherd's Bush. They're not gonna ride through Shepherd's Bush. They're gonna wanna ride along a dedicated path up to Wellington and then along Wellington to the GO train station. You still have a massive missing link for about 400 meters. The final 400 meters to GO train station, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, this is great to see. So yeah, lighting, signage, you know, all important.
Thank you. Lai?
Well, yeah, I would like to actually add to what Gino mentioned. If we are not salvaging signs, why not do something different? Like either my preference is to have something, like I know at Fairy Lake, you mentioned that there will be handles or railings. They have something that kind of acknowledges this is the land of, you know, Huron-Wendat. They have an acknowledgement along with the rails. But at the very least, with the street signage, if we can't salvage that, maybe we could do something with that. If we can't do some sort of acknowledgement that it's Indigenous territory, at least make it larger, easier to read, because it is dark driving around there. That's just my observation.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna add to that, signage is a ton of Aurora, and I know accessibility is a big deal. And again, I haven't looked at your standards, so I don't know how that compares to everybody else, but I know everybody wants bigger signs, because late at night, you're looking to see, I know everybody's on GPS, but sometimes you do wanna just confirm you're making a right or left-hand turn lane. So, you know, again, that's typically not York Region's responsibility for signage. I'm assuming the signage that you're gonna salvage is a stop sign and a street light. Street name sign above. I'm not sure. I don't know what's there, so.
We can take that back if Michael can look into what standard, because I think there's when we design projects, we have to be mindful of two things. I guess it's cost is one, but then how we continue to own and maintain it is the bigger piece. So hypothetically, you might have a big sign and then the snowplows pile snow up against the sign, that gets knocked down, and then the sign shop at the town that is contracting it will go back to a normal sign because that's kind of the standard. So then it's more of a moving forward, how do you maintain these improvements? So it would be something I think that we would take back and have to talk to the town about to make sure that they can sustain these types of upgrades, minor upgrades. Yeah.
Michael, do you have any comment on that?
I'll bring that back to our office.
Yeah, that would need to be sorted out for sure. Thank you. How much is this project going to cost?
Yeah, I can quickly speak to that. I think the last cost estimate we got on this project, if I recall correctly, is about just under 2 million. This was at the preliminary design or the 60% design stage. So we have moved beyond that. So I think we'll be expecting an updated cost estimate as part of the next submission. But from what I recall, and we can confirm this following this meeting, it's approximately 2 million.
Thank you. Probably it's more now. Gino? Thank you, Gino.
So my question to York Region, are you guys looking at grant funding, potentially grant funding this, given that it's a lake to lakes and it's provincial type of requirement, it falls under the province, maybe there's funding available, leave it up to you guys. And I know other municipalities apply and are successful at getting funding. So I'd recommend to kind of lower the cost. And the other recommendation would be if you're going to go out to tender, you go out early in the spring to get the best price. You don't do it in September to start. Do it, tender it in the winter, say spring start. So if I can make those recommendations. But grant funding, you should be looking to see if you can obtain, especially because this is a lake to lake, and I know this is the way and it's a significant trail connection that we're looking to create. So
Thank you. I can see you want to answer that.
I can provide an update on that. So we have been consistently applying for the active transportation fund through the federal government.
okay.
I think there's a lot of municipalities that have also been applying, and I think we haven't heard back. Well, last year we were unsuccessful, but this project was part of a bucket of projects that we did apply to. We applied again this year, so we're still waiting the announcements to see if we're successful. But if it is, it would definitely help us with accelerating some of our next batch of designs. My apologies, but if you could put up the slide again. I kind of took a pause, but I did want to go to a next slide that we had later on in the presentation to kind of show other projects in the area that
Fancy.
There.
I think at the point at her laptop.
Oh.
So maybe I can talk about this slide really briefly. So I previously mentioned that we're at 90% detail design and we're on track to have a tender package ready by the end of the year, with the expectation that we're going to go to market in spring. One caveat that I do want to mention is unlike road projects, our projects are typically a lot smaller value, even though 2 million doesn't sound like it's a small value. Relative to road winding projects, they're relatively small values. So some of the efficiencies that we're attempting are to bundle our projects onto existing contracts that the region has in the area. The downside of bundling to save costs on our project is that we're at the mercy of those projects moving forward. And that's why the construction start date shows 2026 to 2027, because we're really contingent on those contracts materializing and then our project piggybacking off of those projects. Yes, Gina?
So I think that's a great suggestion. I'm recommending you then to improve delivery date. You put that into the contract and when the expectation is that this portion, be delivered. Because that can be easily done within the contract documents of a larger document in terms of deliverable. This is a concrete crew, grading crew that would typically do this type of work, and that's separate from, again. So I think it's doable. I think it's great, but you need to put, if you throw it in there as on the line item, yes, they will do it whenever they feel like it. But if you put, other requirements in it that you need to deliver this or start this project in 2026, complete it by the end of the season, that you're giving them direction, because it is a separate crew that's going to be doing it. It's part of the road. I'm just sharing that with the different, I know road reconstruction projects, and typically the concrete guys come later, right, in the overall project. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I doubt that it has any bearing on grant applications, but I don't know if it would make any difference that it does connect to the school that's there on Bayview. So it is, with the new subdivisions that are coming in and the existing ones that are expanding, that might be a factor.
Good point. Thank you. I have a question about, it was mentioned about the timing with Treasure Hill. Do you have an agreement, any kind of agreement in place, any timing Is it seamless? Is it problematic?
Given the timing, I think we are on track. Like Gino said, through the development application review process, through their subdivision application, we have provided the coordination on the grading. And there are letter of credits being taken as part of the subdivision application. So
this is in writing.
yes.
Thank you.
Now we're really at the we've messaged the need for that coordination, and we're just relying on their contractors to complete that work.
Yeah, but if it's in I mean, yes, of course they would agree, but are they under an obligation to do that?
Yes. I think the only thing they're not under obligation to do is to deliver by a certain time, but they are under obligation to complete it.
Well, the timing is important, though. You have no control over that, I'm guessing?
Unfortunately not.
Okay. This was a very good discussion. Thank you to everybody. I think it's a good idea, especially now, as Lai said about, you're talking about the high school, Lai? I think there's a new high school.
No? No, it's an elementary school.
Right on Bayview?
It's the Catholic District School Board Elementary School. I don't remember the name because I have nothing to do with it, but it's right on Bayview. It's right there.
Okay, well, and there is the new high school, so yeah, anything we can do to make it easier and safer for the kids, but then absolutely needs to be maintained in the winter, or it's of no good. So where did we get to on that? We haven't decided if it's the municipality or the region that's going to maintain that. Steve?
Not an input, just a question about, I mean, this same path continues on the east side. The continuation of this would already exist on the east side of Bayview to the north. So if we're talking about students, potentially using this in the off season as a cycle, roll, walk sort of route, who is responsible for clearing the snow on that path that exists to the north, on the north of north of Wellington now?
I don't know. Do you know? Does anybody know? Michael?
I believe it's the town. What do you think? The town. I think it's the town that's clearing that section. I don't know where.
Is it actually being cleaned?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe you could just find out if it is the town or the region.
I would refer to the existing.
The existing north of Wellington.
On
The one on the
north
east side.
East side,
That one is.
it's just MUP, right? No sidewalk.
That's right.
Okay, so then that most likely the town's.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think there is sidewalk and MUP on
Yeah,
that
there's
stretch.
both. There's both.
There's both.
Yeah.
Both.
You have sidewalk and then you have a
Yeah,
closer to the road.
Sometimes they're right together and then they're apart in other stretches, so.
That's right. That's something unique to Aurora, I know.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, Gino.
So are we ready to speak to, I know you have on your last sheet there.
You haven't shown it yet.
Yeah,
Do you wanna show your last?
Yeah.
I think when I clicked twice.
I thought
they
you tried,
just kinda
because I
move
know
out.
you're not done yet, because I have something to say about priority projects. Because this relates to previous meetings.
Can you screen before, the
Yeah.
slide before?
Significant regional
There you go.
projects. That one?
Yeah.
This is the one.
Yep.
Okay. So I would like to.
Did you wanna speak to it first, then it's.
Yeah,
Sure, I can try to head off
Speak
some
to
of
it
it.
first.
So on the figure on the bottom right hand side of the page, that's R1, that's the segment that I briefly mentioned in Richmond Hill. So once we complete that segment, we'll have a good continuous link connecting Lake Wilcox all the way up to Wellington with our A1 project. As part of, and then in Newmarket, you'll also notice Sawmill to Joe Bertuccini on Yonge Street. We also have a project there to replace the existing sidewalk with the MUP. So those are the three major projects in this vicinity that we're trying to leverage with combined contracts. And then for next phase of our design projects, we're looking to start this a tender package, we're looking at a request for fee proposal for another batch of projects, which includes Wellington, generally between Bathurst and the GO train station. And then a small segment that there's also a small segment near the Stronach Aurora Recreation Center from Leslie over. That's also included in that segment. And then the last segment is St. John's Side Road from Yonge to Willow Farm.
The Leslie on Wellington, Leslie, is it north or south?
It would be on the north side.
On the north side.
And then on the south side, I'm aware that there has been some interest for a development application. So through that development review, our team is also requesting that the developer connect the sidewalk on the west side of the creek over to that intersection and down to Don Hillock. So hopefully we can get all that connectivity there.
Thank you. I have had questions from a few residents on that, so that's good news. Gino, did you want to?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a follow-up. So I'm glad to hear that. I think development always moves forward a lot quicker than capital projects, and I know residents typically move in and then start complaining that there is no connection. Having the developers connect to existing as a requirement and developments coming in, I think needs to be a council policy here at the town, because again, I'm going to speak to priority projects. I know the development, I'm going to speak to St. John's, right? The developments that happen on St. John's that move forward without really any connection to Yonge Street, which I was surprised because again, I know that corridor and I've been there, and I know I heard back, people saying, oh, Gino's difficult to connect. I think, sorry, if you see some of the things that I've seen where you, again, as an interim solution, they should move forward. So as it relates to priority projects, if I had to do it, again, I always look at the area and I said there's no facilities. So if I had to prioritize, I said St. John's Side Road from Yonge Street to Willow Farm Lane is a #1 priority. Very close to it is, of course, Aurora GO and Wellington. And I've raised many, issues. I struggle because there's an existing facility, but I'm sorry, when I see schools and we want to encourage our kids to cycle there, and I see how narrow I have to then prioritize. And, I put our kids first and their safety first, and I know it's, again, we talk about speed cameras and all of that. And I think that should be a #1 priority for the region. I really think, and then again, this is where both the region and the town dropped the ball. That should have been constructed as part of the development when it was being approved. And somebody dropped the ball and missed it. But I think it needs to be, and I say this to Wendy, to yourself, you represent that should be a council policy that moving forward, new development needs to connect to existing. The sidewalk, cycle track, whatever it is, they need to connect to existing, especially if it's in close proximity to something on Yonge Street, okay? So
Thank you.
let's
I
just
will
start
bring
at
that.
the end of the day as something, but I think it's critical. So to me, St. John's Side Road, #1, Wellington priority from Bathurst Street to John West Way, Mary Street. I think we need to do, if I had to set a priority, right in the vicinity of potentially future bridge. Now, I know Metrolinx has delayed the bridge. Again, I think they're waiting for the second bundle of funding, right? Because they're doing, some work right now, but not what the ultimate is, I think. But I think we need to set a priority and make sure that we build whatever we want our boulevard to be, because then they need to match. If we delay this, again, we're not going to get it. They're going to And again, I've said this previously in my other meetings, this has to be a priority. We want to get people out of cars, okay? Build it, they will come, okay? I'm tired of listening. Everybody says, oh, but nobody's using it, okay? I'm sorry, build it, okay? They will come, okay? In due time, okay? And yes, we're all guilty of driving our kids, everywhere. But again, if we want to get back on their bikes, at least try, we need to build safe facilities within the boulevard. No one's gonna cycle on, again, unless you're a professional cyclist, or even that, sometimes I worry on the shoulder. We need protected facilities, and a curb and tree provide that sense of protection. It gives me, us that are parents, again, I cycled in downtown Toronto behind a bus. We never had bike lanes or anything. And I know how dangerous that could be in terms of dooring and things. So to me, priority, St. John Side Road, Wellington, very close second. Again, you have some time because again, we haven't heard from Metrolinx, again, with them. Every year, it could be a different flavor, but again, they haven't announced anything about Aurora. And similar Wellington Street, that of course is a priority. So that's my opinion. I think the priority we should set here because it is also part of our master plan. We flagged it, and again, this gets into reporting that I've shared with you because I said, okay, we've gone forward with this master plan, and I know Steve, you mentioned it. How are we demonstrating? And again, this comes to how is our staff demonstrating to us who sit on this committee what we're delivering, what we put in that master plan? No different than what York Region is. I think all municipalities are tasked with that. If you give direction that we're doing this master plan, we need to see how it's being implemented. I get it, funding is restricted here, in terms of what we can do because we're small, but we're mighty. If we do it smartly, we can get a lot of things constructed, okay? Working with the region, working with grant money, there is possibility. I always say link to existing, let's fill those gaps, okay? Because I think it's important. And the other thing, I'm just curious, on Bayview, the lake to lake, where's it missing? How much of that have we done? How far south is that? I'm curious as to how much is still missing. And maybe Steve, you can answer that. Okay.
We're getting there. So not this last Christmas, the Christmas before last, my wife and I, we went on this grand adventure. It was a beautiful day, if you remember, not this past Christmas, a Christmas ago. And my wife and I, we said, we got up, we had nothing else to do. It was 10 degrees Celsius, and we said, let's ride from our house down Yonge Street to the lake. And there's actually a little implant if you go all the way down Yonge Street, and there's a little thing that says Aurora, 42 kilometers, right at the foot of Yonge Street. You go all the way down Yonge, and we did that. And there's bike lanes here and there. Some stretches are a little sketchy, but we did it. The traffic was light. And we did it. We went all the way down to Yonge, and then we said, we're going to cross over Corktown, took the new bike sort of facilities through there, and then we hooked up with Bayview Extension, and then we rode on whatever facilities existed all the way back up Bayview, because we live just right here, so it's like a total loop. And there's great facilities most of the way. There's part of the way on Bayview there isn't, but that's what we're talking about, Gino. There's missing links, and you got to get out on Bayview and you're in traffic. Now, once you get up like north of Richmond Hill, there's a beautiful dedicated bike facility, MUP, all the way up, and then it comes up, and I think it stops at Stouffville.
19th to Stouffville.
Yeah, so there's another missing link, and you're back out on Bayview in traffic. So these are the missing links that we have, and I just wish that they could get fulfilled, but I've done that whole loop. I know where the missing links are. Now going further north, you've got the facility already I just mentioned it, on the now east side of Bayview. You get up to St. John's and then there's nothing. Again, you've got a sidewalk on one side of the road going north on Bayview to now up to Mulock. It's sidewalk only. But you got space. See, this is the great thing. That we can do up here in York Region and in the 905, they can't do down in Toronto, is we have the room and the space and the right of ways. They don't down in the city. This is where it comes back to you folks. You've got the space. you got the right of way there. I know, Gino's doing the money thing. It comes down to money. But, we can do great things up here in Newark region because we have the space, and you can see it. You go south, like down in Richmond Hill, that's a beautiful MUP that goes north. I don't know where it starts on the south, but it ends, as we've talked about, it ends at Stouffville side.
Lee, Guy?
Yeah, Lil, another
Lil?
missed opportunity is, this was years before St. Anne's School came up on St. John's Side Road. So years before, there were surveys taken, like people were petitioning for a sidewalk along St. John's up to Bathurst.
Yeah.
And the missed opportunity is that Shining Hills developer is not paying for that, for a multi-use pathway or a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Now, I see a missed opportunity because there's going to be a park in Shining Hills. There's going to be at least 200 new drivers added, and now 2 signal lights in that stretch.
And no public transportation and no access.
No sidewalks, no pathways, no public transportation, and there's no traffic calming in the sense that people just rip through there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 2 schools right in the vicinity. There's St. Anne's and SAC. So, and then there's now going to be a new park and a lot of new drivers. So I still think that if we at least try to extend the pathway on the north side of St. John's up to Willow Farm, but have a plan in place to extend that to Bathurst, so that, because when the region, so it was brought up a long time ago by Councillor Harold, and then it was brought up again by Councillor Ron Weiss, and the region's answer was, oh, people can just walk all the way to Bathurst and then cross there. But there's no button. There's no crosswalks. So that answer was actually a very poor answer, because the cars turn so fast there, they run through red lights, and it's a very, I've seen a lot of bad car accidents year after year after year right there. So yeah, to be able to have at least some way, because there are people running for their lives across there every day on St. John's. I don't know if you see the dog walkers, but there are elderly people that cross there multiple times a day. And I don't think that the region is, they're probably checking when people have gone to cottages or traveling, but they're not checking at the right times. But there have been petitions. If people go back, there have been petitions asking for a sidewalk there on the north side up to Bathurst.
And could I, Gino, before you go, I was very much part of that Shining Hill, and I voted against it for many reasons, and that being one. But to the region, we were told at the time that the region was going to build a sidewalk there. Does the region have any plans on the north side of St. John's to build a sidewalk? Or maybe you could get back to us if you don't know the answer.
So sidewalks are, region typically we don't build sidewalks. Sidewalks are under the jurisdiction of the municipality. But through our standalone project where we've identified, we're gonna be looking at seeing if we can build in an MUP. So not a sidewalk, but something that accommodates both cyclists and
Yes, I guess, though we need it. We need it now.
yeah, I think the challenge there is there's a bridge.
Yeah.
There's a structure there, and that was the limitation. My understanding through the development review process was that AT connectivity was requested, but because of the structure limitations, it wasn't pursued at that time. And that I believe that was the onus to provide at that time through their first development phase was the constraint. Not to say it was a missed opportunity, but I think we did try to push for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Please. And Michael, or yourself, the comments about Bathurst and St. John's, about that intersection, are there any plans to make that safer?
Just in St. John,
And you may need to report back to us, but that sounds like that sounds extremely unsafe and needs to have attention as soon as possible.
I would refer to the crossing. Yeah, we'll look into it.
But will you update us on it, what you find out, please?
Okay. And yeah, and there's something that I just want to follow up too. So what Wyatt said, so the town and region at that time did push for at least a sidewalk, some sort of PT facility with the Shining Hill development. So on day one, since the initial submission came in, we've been asking for a sidewalk from the limit of their site all the way to Yonge Street. And through the whole process, what Ryan's mentioned as well is that there's some difficulties that they couldn't be built. And then I believe we did ask for credit. So we do have money to do that, but we just need to find the right opportunity to build the sidewalks.
Thank you. Yes, try and keep us in the loop there. I think Gino was next. Steve? Gino?
So I'm gonna get back to then where you said the development. So just to let you know, typically, again, these deals with our hot topic of development charges. So when development, St. John's side road, just from our reconstruction, I think it's in the 2050s. I think where the regions put it out that it would be done. Unfortunately, it is, okay, what do you do first, right? And I hate to say it, the southern municipalities have higher growth, higher needs, and sometimes there's a priority there. The subdivisions, typically as they move forward, you collect fees through DCs to be able to construct, again, the road along with any other types of facilities, the street lighting, anything you typically do on a road reconstruction. In this case here, because you're moving forward with NUP and I hear a sidewalk as an interim solution, right? And because again, 2050 is a long time away. And if we can stick it, I love MUPs, but I just think depending on the volume, MUPs are great when the volumes are low. Okay, typically they work. As soon as I'm worried when I hear there's a park going in and we're in park, if the volumes come up, you're gonna get into again, because there's gonna be, if we stick a sidewalk next to this MUP, again, I throw that out there because the sidewalk is a town responsibility to be incorporated as a side-by-side, okay? We're doing that on Rutherford, and I see them doing it elsewhere. No different to what we did here on Wellington, Wellington, on Bayview, north of Wellington, right? If there's an opportunity to look at that, Lynn, you said you actually want to see it. Lil, and again, I don't know what's in your scope, if it's been awarded yet, but maybe we look at doing a design to see how you can incorporate all the way to Bathurst Street as it relates to an MUP and or a sidewalk, at least protect for it, if there's space to do it in there. I'll leave that up to.
I think that, I'm just familiar with that corridor, because we did push really hard to.
And there's site issue, because what you're talking about right now in terms of a crop, you can't put it in sight line. If we reconstruct Bayview, that hilling is gonna disappear, because the issue with speeds and putting the crossings, you need, in engineering, you need sightline distance. Like if you have a certain speed, you need to have a certain distance. And the way typically you do design is you design for a higher level, gets you a more distance. So with the speed was 50, you design for a 60, which really gives you more distance to kind of add that buffer of protection. Right now, there's sightline issues. If with all historical roads, sometimes the grading, the old grading works, sometimes it doesn't, and you can't put across. The region would be liable, we'd all be liable at the end, and we're paying for insurance, right? If somebody gets hit, are there ways of doing it? Could you put flashing lights further ahead when somebody's crossing so the cars, they're not at the last minute? Yeah, there's things that we can do. I leave it up to, you guys coming up with as a solution. I mean, I've seen that many different solutions, right? Traffic would have to look at that. As it relates to Bathurst Street, that traffic signal is a regional responsibility. Now, I know they've been upgrading the traffic signals, and as they do, again, they'll upgrade to meet the requirements. If you're telling me there's no push button there, then yeah, that should be a priority. I'll let you, go back to your traffic people and maybe put that traffic signal in there as priority to be upgraded. Okay.
Or even at connecting Brentwood to, what is it called? Opposite Brentwood. There was a request, a petition to put a crosswalk there, even though it's close to
Too
Bathurst.
close to the intersection.
But mind you, the people won't cross at Bathurst because they don't feel safe, because the cars are turning and they're going too many cars, too many things happening at high speeds there. So it makes sense to put a crosswalk, even if it's close to Bathurst. I think it makes sense to put it at Bathurst, Woodland Hills and McKinley Gate. That's the place. The request was to put it there because it's far enough from the hill. It is close to Bathurst, but the speeds are too high at Bathurst. People don't want to cross there, and there's no push button there anyways.
Thank you. You'll take that back. Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, just through you, Chair, to basically to the room, and Gino's already talked about this, and I mentioned it in passing. I see it up there on the significant regional projects list, is I keep coming back to Wellington. And what is the plan? What is the timeline to sort of these critical missing links for active transportation that we have in Wellington? Like, we literally have not even 400 meters. You're on the MUP, you can see, the GO train station off there in the distance, and there's no safe way to get there. And it's not it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I know it is a big deal.
It is.
What I would like to see, and council I hope would like to see, because we're all involved with this, we have the key people sitting here right here in the room right now, is what is the plan for that stretch, particularly for Wellington from, and I see it there, Wellington from John Westway and Mary Street to the GO train station. There's going to be big problems on the east side with setbacks because there's just not room. I don't know how you're going to figure that out. But the easier solution is on the east side because there is room. There is space. I've already talked about that. It's the great thing that we have out in the suburbs. We often have space. When you go on the east side, I don't know what you're going to do because that's going to be a problem. So I'd like to hear, we have everyone in the room. We have Michael from the town. We have representation from council, and we have you two fine gentlemen from York Region who specifically work on this. So what is the plan? What is the timeline? What are we looking at? I know this is kind of away from your presentation. We're kind of in a new business, but the right people are in the room here.
Part of it. Part of the presentation. Okay.
So
Well,
yeah,
it's a good question, and I know nothing about it. So if there's any information,
definitely, I'm happy to, I see the excitement, I see the passion, and it's really reassuring to know that we have your support. So I don't want to overpromise. I want to preface kind of our group. We're also a very relatively small budget group. We try to do a lot. We're leveraging other capital projects that are out there to try to maximize our dollar value and get projects in the ground. With that said, our council budget is not very big. So at the moment, we have a backlog. In this area alone, we already have 3 projects. To build out these projects and all the backlog projects, we probably have about 2 to 3 years worth of projects to construct that are already at 90% design. And then we also have to balance those construction dollars with our detailed design dollars. Realistically, I would want to preface that we would probably be pushing really hard to have a design for the second batch in maybe 3 years.
okay. But I have a point that I think is important. The province wants us to use the transit system, bus and train, that we put maybe billions of dollars into at this point. And how can we encourage that completely if we don't have that sidewalk? So it may not be your department, but surely there must be somebody at the region who understands that we need, in order to use the transit properly, we need that short sidewalk. So can you think of who that would be? Or could you get back to us? Because maybe that's something that I need to try and work with through our transit people, or maybe through the mayor or the CAO, because it's true. It's very frustrating to have that station and not make it fully accessible.
Yes, I could definitely take that.
Can you get back to the committee and suggest the way forward with that? I understand it's not in your budget. It just can't be. But there's probably a budget somewhere at the region that is working on active transportation and transit stations. Hopefully. Thank you.
I will let you know that this intersection he's talking about is where we have the most pedestrian accidents.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about fatalities, but in Aurora, that is the highest risk. It also is a connection between 2 to 3 schools. So we have an elementary school on one side and we have a high school on the other. So I don't know if there's any way that we can, again, go to grants or something.
What intersection are you talking about? Sorry, to be clear.
He's talking about at Wellington and Young.
Oh, Wellington.
I'm sorry.
No.
You were talking the connection between Bayview to the Dome.
Yeah,
That's another one. There is a high school there too.
I'm talking about, well, I mean, the whole stretch of Wellington needs something. I'm talking about that stretch from John West Way and Mary Street to the GO train station.
Right.
Right now, there's nothing. There's a sidewalk.
Right.
Something. Gino's talked about this. We need to have something before Metrolinx gets going on.
If they do the design in 3 years, you're still gonna be ahead of Metrolinx.
Okay.
So this is the area where York Region planted those nice trees for us.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Thank
They
you.
put the trees on the south side, just from Transcontinental. And that, I don't know, that when I reached out to Councillor Weiss, and I asked Councillor Weiss, I said, you put trees
It's a
on the
thing
south
here.
side where the MUP possibly could go.
Mm-hmm.
So why did the trees go in? So then Councillor Weiss came back to me and said, well, if the MUP goes, it would be on the north side, which is fine. I mean, there's more room geographically on the north side. Less grading would be required to do that. But again, these are the kinds of things where it gets frustrating because this is a critical missing link, as Councillor Gartner had said, with regards to transit. That station is overused with car traffic coming in there.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get more people to that station without cars, however that is.
Yeah.
Transit, active transportation, walking, whatever it is. But I know there's people who live probably less than 2 kilometers away from that station, as I do, who I don't, but probably drive to the GO train station.
Steve,
We have to do everything we humanly can, physically can, I know there's limits with budgets, to give people options to get to that GO train station, not using a car.
we have been working on this without, I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it's 20 years maybe, with the region back and forth, maybe getting some shuttle service. Like, it's just, I don't know. But you're absolutely right. And Michael, you're relatively new on staff, so maybe you don't know the history, but I think you had your hand up there.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on Steve's point. So, as part of the development application, if you do, whenever we see it, we do ask for AT facilities, so active transportation facilities, including sidewalk, bicycle lane, or NUP. So the application in the northeast corner of Industrial Parkway and Wellington, the new condo that's
condo,
going up.
yeah.
Yeah, so we did, as part of that review process, we did request for the NUP.
Okay.
So along the frontage of the site. I know the distance is not the greatest, but it's something that we can include into the future project. So we are, like, whenever this application comes in, we do request for active transportation facility according to the
Okay.
the master plan that was endorsed by council.
So you, sorry to interrupt, but you requested the developer to,
They're providing,
okay.
yeah. It's not just request, they're providing.
Yeah, except we didn't discuss that at the public planning meeting. So,
Well, that's another thing that I've sat in, and sorry, I'm riffing here, is that I sat in on enough public planning meetings now in the last 3 or 4 years and in the last 2 years. How people move around, Councilor Gardner, how people move around is never discussed at these public planning meetings. It seems to be assumed, that everyone will drive. And now we're in the situation we're in, where everyone is driving, and people are now complaining ballistically about congestion traffic in Aurora. Because you know what?
you're right.
Because you know what? We've done nothing for them to get around any other way. So they are all driving.
Car focused for too long.
So
I'm
they're,
not gonna blame the planners, it's just been the way the thinking has been.
hey,
We didn't invest in public, and I'm gonna speak to it because I'm working on it right now, and I hate to say this, but I moved up here and I'm coming out of Toronto. I said, there's no public transit. I'm getting old. What if I can't drive? What the hell am I gonna do? I purposely picked where I live because I'm a block away from Yonge Street. I said, okay, there's gonna be a bus here, I can shop here. That was my strategy. But I'm gonna tell you, you know, when you're spoiled coming out of the city or you have options, I never needed a car to go to UFT. Okay, take the subway, okay, or a bus. Okay, but I'm sorry, you come up here, we were car focused for 50 years. It's gonna take us 50 years. And I appreciate that because I tell it the way it is. The planners were great, putting all the shopping areas on the regional roads. We love Unionville, we like Kleinberg, we like all these little streets, but how the hell have we created that where you could walk to the shop? Okay, those intermediate type of shopping activities that we could do. No, we have to get in our car because we've segregated it all and put it on the major streets. So I hate to say it, our planners were guilty back for a long time. They have slowly now gotten that, you know what? We have to make self-contained, you know, even the condo developments that are moving forward in the bigger municipalities, they're looking to say, okay, we need a store, we need a supermarket, we need a bank. We don't want people to get in their cars. We want people to walk here. But if you create these developments where there's nothing around and you have to get into a car because, you know, Longo's on a regional, all these stores, we didn't create, and it's too late because it's already built. So what do you do?
but that's my point, and this is to Councillor Gardner, is even on like just some of these more recent public planning meetings with some, you know, developments that have been going on just in the last couple of years. I've been to the meetings. It's never talked about how people are going to get around the St. John's road development just west of Yonge. It was quite controversial next to the Mackenzie Marsh. I sat there, no one ever talked about how people were going to get around. They talked about how to get in and out of the development in their car, but it wasn't brought up that, you know, how proximate it was to public transit. Well, public transit doesn't even exist on St. John's. There's nothing at Yonge. There's no way for.
I'm going to say that I am thoroughly embarrassed, and it's been a terrible oversight. We never, I've been around 23 years. We've never discussed pedestrian traffic. And with respect, why? Because it's a car community. But the other thing is, and I don't know whose comment it was, but we talk about building complete communities, which means you walk 10 minutes to stores, 10 minutes to park, you've got all the services, and yet we have put affordable housing next to the GO station. And because people don't need cars there, they can use public transit, but there are no grocery stores. There are no services. It's craziness. And yes, the planners and council has been negligent. Lil,
Yes.
sorry, Lil.
I do hope, this is my personal hope. I feel really sad that, so on the north side at Bathurst and St. John's, that neighborhood was assigned to go to GW Williams that was more than 7 kilometers south and away. And the school board said they would not send a bus. They said, take a bus. They said they wouldn't send a school bus. But there's no sidewalk to even walk to Yonge for those students. So how are they gonna take a bus on Yonge to get to GW, which is at golf links, right? Like it's just impossible. And they're not sending a school bus. So it forced the parents to drive their kids because there's no sidewalk, there's no public transit, and there's no way to even reach Yonge Street for these students. So I'm just saying, okay, if York Region Public School Board is wondering why so many kids switched over to the Catholic School District School Board, it was because it's the only school board that was willing to send a bus to places that are inaccessible with no sidewalks and no public transit. But all I'm saying is, I do think that sidewalk to Bathurst should be expedited because there is going to be Shining Hills there. There may be a daycare center there, and there will definitely be a park there. And there will definitely be 200 extra drivers on St. John's with no sidewalk to Yonge Street and no access to public transportation. I think that is a priority. So I'm sorry to keep harping on it, but I do think like this is a disservice to all those families with kids.
The thing that's frustrating is you go on social media. Sorry, we're getting into the weeds with this now, but we might as well, because the key people are in the room. Like, we have people from the town, we have people from the region, we have council here with us. So we're getting into the weeds of this. And it is terrible and poor planning. I'll be honest with you. Thank you, Councillor Gardner, for admitting that and the negligence that's gone on. But people are like Yonge, I look at Yonge and St. John Side Road. It's already a traffic vortex. You're talking about 200 more cars, 200 more drivers. It's already a traffic vortex. I sometimes, I'm riding along there, I'm going out for an afternoon ride. The cars are backed up on St. John's all the way to the train tracks, waiting to get through that intersection. And it's because we've done things like this, Lil, where we've just sort of shrugged our shoulders and said, well, everyone's gonna drive, no problem. Well, it's a problem. We have crazy, ridiculous congestion traffic in Aurora. And it's from poor planning up until now. We can't really do anything about it. But you know what we can do? We can plan better going forward.
Yes.
And that's why I'm asking, York Region's here at the table. Michael, you from the town here at the table. Councillor Gardner's here representing council at the table. We can start today. We can start today and we can plan better for the future. So we can start to do little things like figuring out this 400-meter gap we have from John Westway and Mary Street to Wellington to the GO train station, or as Lil's talking about, what the heck is going on St. John's Side Road, all the way over to Bathurst. We can start to make those little changes going forward. We don't just shrug our shoulders, as I've seen at council meetings, Councillor Gardner, with no discussion about humans are actually going to move around. Let's build this condo development, or let's build this town home development, or whatever we're building, but there's zero discussion about how people are going to move around. There's just an assumption that it's going to be by the personal automobile. Well, we've kind of reached maximum car. What are we going to do going forward? How are we going to change that?
I support what you're saying 100%. I'm going to work on it. Gino, I think this may be the last time that you get to speak.
I know too much. So as it relates to Aurora GO, I think what's critical, we need an MUP on both sides, okay? At the end, it's not sufficient just to have one sidewalk and an MUP because that's what we're gonna get. I need 3 meters if we're gonna build a future bridge. I need at least a 3-meter facility on the north side and a 3-meter facility on the south side so that we get that's incorporated into the future bridge. So I note that to the region and whether you want to then cross over and then combine it into the single one. But I think we can't move forward with just a sidewalk on one side because that's what we're gonna end up in the long run getting, and that's not sufficient
Trees are
for, okay, those trees, I'm sorry, you can ask York Region Forestry to relocate them. As it relates to property constraints, okay, where you can't have a sidewalk and MUP like anything else, again, we're constrained, property costs money, you typically get it. It's part of the development, you constrain it. Basically, sidewalk disappears, you have one facility at least, and then wherever you have the space that we have, you separate it, okay? But in constrained areas, hey, it is what it is, okay? You gotta go around the utility, I'm not paying. You don't wanna know how much it is to relocate an electric pole and all the rest of it. You have to go around, gotta constrain it, so be it. So I say that, Brian, because again, you know, I'm in the industry the same as you, and I think it's important to build something, even an interim, whatever, but we need to do something on Wellington on both sides there. I think it's not one side, okay? And the rest I'm not gonna repeat. I think however, how we demonstrate this is we're going into a capital, and maybe I have to show up. And you know, again, I don't wanna, and say, okay, staff, demonstrate to me in this capital budget, what is part of the mass, what are you delivering? Because that's the way we demonstrate how we're moving forward. You're asking, okay, how do we move forward? The capital budget is moving forward. I know it's election year next year. So everybody's like, okay, I know 0% is out there, and I'm not gonna say where my position is on that, because pay me now or pay me later, we will pay twice later, and I'll leave it at that. I think you demonstrate what's being implemented as part of our active transportation in our master plan. And I'm sorry, if that has to be an item as part of capital budget, we have to go there as part of the committee and ask staff to demonstrate that and just say, okay, what's the plan? We need a plan. We created the plan and we're into implementation mode. How are you demonstrating to residents that you're implementing what we took a long time to do? And I'll leave it at that because the councilman's here, and I think that's how you demonstrate leadership.
It used to be when the committees had power that they were able to make motions, and the motions would be brought to council on an agenda. Now, we made them when we were meeting in the council chamber, we made a motion, and it was about the path leading to the town hall. I believe, Steve, from the senior center to the town hall. Anyway, sorry, did I get that right? Senior center, where would it be going?
You're talking about maybe the family leisure complex?
Yeah, so it's there, but it's not plowed in the winter, I believe. I believe we were trying for that. Anyway, I put a motion on the agenda. I'm not supposed to. And Julia is relatively new, but we could give it a shot. What is in as simple as possible? How can we express this about planning for the movement of people, not just cars, and filling in the gaps to important places like the GO station. I don't know, maybe you guys want to come to the meeting because you are amazing. Maybe you want to come and speak to that. It always has a lot more meaning when people are personally speaking to council. But you're absolutely right. We haven't done a good enough job with respect to foot traffic as opposed to car traffic. So, Julie, how are you gonna do the minutes to this? Are you?
I have my work cut out for me.
You
Madam Chair.
do.
That's
but-
quite all right.
but I mean, you could say that there was heated debate or how, I mean, if you can translate in your minutes how important this issue is to the committee and really should be important to all of the counselors. I mean, we're supposed to be here to take care of you. It doesn't matter what ward, right? So, and of course, it'll be more in the ward that Ron Weiss has. I'm down at Henderson, you know, or Kennedy to Henderson, but for this area, because it's such an important area for the town, all the counselors should really be listening to what you are saying. So, Julia, we will let you do the minutes. And when I see the minutes, or when we all see the minutes, then you can decide if one or several of you would like to come to council. And I think it is an area of discussion that is important for council to hear. And as I said, we never talk about it. Amazingly, we never talk about this. Okay. I am going to, unless anybody wants to, I think everything's been said that needs to be said. And we do have new business, and I have a feeling there will be questions under new business. So I'm going to ask, we have our mover and our seconder. Steve, are you in position to say something right now? Are you? No. Okay. Okay. So we have our mover and our seconder. So I need an approval of this agenda item. Am I right, Julia?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I don't believe we have a mover and a seconder for this item.
We mean this has been on the floor without a mover and a seconder. Okay. Who hasn't moved or seconded anything? Everybody has. Okay, Steve, go for it. Warren, you want it? I mean,
Sure.
yeah, that's what I meant, Owen.
Sorry, it's just under new business.
No,
No,
This is-
we're on the
Or
7.1.
yeah. Oh, you know what? As most of the well, you were quite involved in this too. So either one of the two of the three of you need to move and second this motion. Gino, you were
I'll second.
okay. You got that? Okay.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, so I don't have it in front of me, but I expect we're moving on to new business. Am I correct on that?
Madam Chair, was there a vote?
Oh, no, there was not. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay. By the way, thank you to York Region for the presentation. Yes. And with respect to that missing link from Bayview to the GO station, you will investigate and see who might be able to help with that at the region?
Yes, certainly.
It's not your department. No.
Well, we will be including that in our next round, but the conversation I think that you're requesting is whether or not we can expedite that. I think that's to clarify his request.
Yes, somebody who has the money to expedite that.
Federal government.
Okay, and we have no informational items. Now, we do have new business. I have something, but does anybody around the table have any new business? Gino?
I do. I'd like to ask a question about Young Street
Yeah.
detail design and when that's coming back to the committee to review.
That's my question as well.
Oh. So Young Street.
Where?
Sorry, Young Street from Bloomington to Industrial Parkway. Or Henderson. I don't know. I had originally said it should be extended to Henderson on both sides. But I think the original project limits was to industrial, if I'm not mistaken. But my recommendation was it should have gone further. But anyway, status update on it.
Thank you. Michael, do you have an update on that for us?
So my understanding, the consultant is finalizing the 90% design. The PIC, the Public Information Center, is still being scheduled upon finishing up 90%. So I can get some more information from a colleague who's managing the project, and I'll give you an update too.
Thank you. I think Mr. Ramuno is hoping to have the first open house on this. Mr. Ramuno is Director of Planning. He's just answered me. It's going to be early 2026, whatever that would mean, January or February. So we'll start the open houses, but it doesn't say when it's going to come back to this committee. So Michael, will we get it before it goes to the open houses, or at what point?
I'll follow up with the team.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'll follow up with the project.
Okay. When is our next meeting, Julia?
September, November.
Do we have one in,
Nothing in December. They did it once, it was like Christmas, just 2 weeks before Christmas.
do we have one, well, it's the end of September. Do we have one in November? Is that the next one? I should know this. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot.
I'll just take a look, Madam Chair, and I'll get back to you on that in a moment.
Okay. Can we be kept in the loop? I mean, the committees used to be every month, and I think that this committee is probably one of those that could be every month, but they've been changed to every other, which makes it hard for information dissemination. So Michael, can you just keep us up to date as much as possible?
Absolutely.
Thank
Through
you.
you, Madam Chair, November 26th is the next ATSAC date.
Thank you. Gino?
So I'm recommending that before I go to public forum, that we have the opportunity to review it. I mean, my question is, do you want us to go to the public forum to review it, or, that was my original understanding, but I think we should see it first. In this way, if you need to tweak it.
Did it go, does anybody remember, did it go to a public open house in the beginning? Does anybody remember? I'm sorry, I don't remember. So it may be required to go to a public open house, or it may not, because we have so much knowledge here. We've had so many discussions. Maybe it should just come to us. And then it comes to us, we make our suggested changes, and then it goes to public open house. What do you think about that, Gino?
Public open house is a good thing. That's a pretty standard that most municipalities do, because you don't want to, we're exclusive, I'm gonna say exclusive club, but you want to open it up to provide that forum. I don't know, Michael, if you can answer us, but what's ultimately moving forward now with the sidewalk and a cycling facility? I know there were different options on the table. Can you give us an indication as to what you guys are looking for in terms of the design? Was the decision made in terms of what, I know was going back, I lost track as to what, ultimately we're looking to do on Yonge Street as a portion?
Absolutely. So again, I'm not directly involved in the project, but my understanding is that we are moving forward to 90% on MUP on one side and sidewalk on one side.
Who at the town is
West side.
It's the slope, remember at the cemetery, they only had room for the sidewalk, so the MEP was gonna go on the west side.
West side, okay, that's right.
Yeah. So who at the town, if that's not your project, who at the town is working on that with the region?
It would be my colleague Michael Ha. He's working on the project.
Be Michael Batt. Okay, so
Michael Ha.
Michael Hall, okay. There's so many.
He's done it.
Okay, so,
Is he working with you, Ryan? Good, thank you.
so can you get back to, like, for the November meeting at least, if the design is mostly complete, can you bring it back to us in November?
I'll have to discuss with our team first, to see if that's possible.
Thank you.
So I don't know if they can complete before that.
Okay, because our meeting, our first meeting in 2026 may be in February. And the open house may be before that or at the same time. So please, can you bring us as much as you can in November?
Okay.
Thank you. Steve, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just, in new business, I wanted to extend a thanks to the town, for the work that they've done just in this neighborhood with the upgrades to the existing MUPs. They repaved them, they resurfaced them. I know there was new curb work done. They also trimmed the trees. But these were legacies that were part of the original development here in Wellington Lanes that had gone so decrepit and the pavement so broken up and the trees had grown out so that you couldn't even ride along them. I mean, so thank you to the town for doing that. They're in great shape. I've actually been out for my walks and my rides around here and I see people using them. So the work is good. They've also extended painted bike lanes. I think it's on the streets that access the public schools, St. Jerome. I pull it up, but just north of here as well, part of the Wellington Lanes neighborhood, they painted bike lanes that access Northern Lights Public School, which is great. Thank you. I just love seeing little things like this. It's just paint on a road, but this is cheap. But this is but it's an important part of what we're doing and promoting. You know, again, this is, you know, kids that could maybe not, that would have been driven to school, maybe they can ride to school now. If their parents feel a little bit better, they can ride to school. And then to the region, again, I just want to emphasize the little things like the bollards on Yonge Street. I'm assuming those are going to come out. It's on Yonge Street, north of St. John's. It only goes for about 500 or 600 meters. But it's an important link. Like people could ride a bike now or walk from the trailhead up there just north of Yonge, down, or people at the seniors. I put up a post on this on the social media, and people from that seniors home. What's the name of that seniors home that's there? Just on Yonge, just north of St. John's.
Yes, it's
I don't know the name.
Anyways, there were several people from there that said they were going, great, we can ride our electric scooters up to the shops.
Yes.
Down north on Yonge. Or walk.
Build it, they will come.
You see, this is the thing.
They've been asking for a long time, even with walkers.
And electric scooters. I had two women, they said they lived in that seniors home on a social media post that I put up on the Facebook page. They said they were saying, great, now we can use our electric scooters and we can go up to the shops north on Yonge. So it's a little thing. And then the crosswalk, you know, the I know it's a big button, but I've seen people using it.
This is great. Yes, we would need to keep our seniors as active as possible.
So it's just the little things like this, some bollards, some paint. I know a crosswalk's a little bit more expensive, but I mean, it's the little things like this that really you're putting together this system for people to, again, get out of their cars and get somewhere in a non-car sort of oriented way. So I want to thanks to the region and thanks to the town for these little things.
And feel good about it, which we need our seniors, you know. Gino, before I give you a chance.
I have another item, that's all.
So with respect to Steve's comment about how badly that median was kept on Wellington, that's what you're referring to, Steve? With the trees?
Yes. Yes, south side of Wellington, between Mary Street and in front of Transcontinental Printing.
Could you find out if there is some sort of schedule so that these things don't get into such bad shape? And it looks bad too. Is there a schedule for the town to take care of these? I'm assuming it's the, or is it?
Sorry, Councillor Gardner, that was on the old legacy, I guess,
Okay.
bike lanes that they had in the Wellington Lanes area here, just north of Town Hall. The trees, Michael, had grown to the point where, like, if I was riding my bike along there, I'd get knocked off the bike. So, I mean, again, it's just the little things like this, maintaining the trees.
You know what? That would be a different department. That would be Parks. Yeah, Gino?
This.
Gino, did you want,
Yeah, I did have
Lil, is it on this issue or Gino?
No, it's a separate issue.
Okay, Lil, do
item.
you have another item for new business or it's on this issue?
It doesn't have to do with any of this, but maybe staff can consider it. There are flags on Wellington. And I believe Peel passed it, or Peel is planning, I believe, on September 30th of every year to put up the flag for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And maybe Aurora can do something like that going forward.
Nice. Michael? Sorry.
I'll pass it on to the appropriate department.
Thank you.
What is the appropriate department for that?
Operations.
Operations. Okay, good. Gino, you'll have another.
So I have another item I just want to bring to the attention of the committee because I think it does overlap, but I hope it's tomorrow. I think there's a streetscaping open house on Young Street that I'd like us to participate in because it is part of active transportation. So Young Street to me is a priority. Okay, and I look at it and I'm curious as to what's going to be implemented. I know they're looking at furniture, they're looking at what they can do. And I think this committee should have input in that because again, it's sidewalk. And again, I know the corridor is restricted, but I'd like to see. Those are things like when I look at this committee, what is in the roadway and our trail system and streetscaping, it's all together. Okay, they need to work in combination.
Where and when is this?
Tomorrow, 4:30 to 6:30 to 6:30 at House Park. So
In October.
in one of the rooms.
One of the rooms there, I think it was on the town website for as a notice.
Okay.
But I gotta rush home from work to see if I can get to attend. I wish they'd do it a little bit later. 4:30 is like everybody.
Yeah, that's a strange time.
Like everybody's at work or whatever, so.
We did attempt to do it from 5 to 7, but unfortunately the room is booked from 7 onward. And our facility staff require that half an hour to clean up for the next event. So everything was booked. All the weekdays basically was booked from now to.
Couldn't you just do it here at City Hall?
So what we try to do is so there's 2 projects going on at the same time. So there's the Department of Streetscape plan, and then there's also the townwide parking study. So the parking open houses for both. So in 2 separate rooms, but in the same building. So for convenience, so residents can just go attend to both. And we chose Town Square because there's a lot more activities going on in Town Square. It's more centrally located. There's the library. So we also attract people from the library that comes over, people from Town Park walking over. So we had our first PIC for the townwide parking study at the library and some places. So we continue to have the openers there.
Sorry, Mike, again, you're doing the parking stick, that's great. That was one of my concerns we were developing. There is house parking as it relates to now, because that was an issue I raised. And and again, some of my commentary was, okay, how do we connect what we just did there with an MUP to the park, because I look internally in there and I said, okay, what are we doing? Because to me, that's a nice connection way to go, for those that don't want to, because again, town, I'm looking at the park that we have where we have all our activities. Okay, what are we doing there? So I know we raised it as part of the master plan, you know, and again, getting back to what Steve noted. Yeah, pavement markings, I always said that's the cheapest and has the greatest impact. So if we need to demonstrate that as an interim, like I said, doing the pavement marking. But again, as it relates to streetscape, I'm curious as what we can do to improve it, because I think the intent is to upgrade the underground facility. So typically, so everybody knows, when you don't want to do streetscaping and then go rip up for water main and
No.
storm or sanitary upgrades. You typically, when that needs to be done, you say, okay, what else do we need to do? Do we need to upgrade the lighting? I know there was talk before doing Christmas lighting, doing like a little, whatever to kind of focus. But I like our downtown. It's cute. How do you save it? But I always say you need to create that destination. What are we doing? And I think we did create the destination with the work that we did, with the library and creating that square. I think that would be a magnet. That's our attraction. So how do you build on that? And I think when I look at that, when I quickly looked at streetscaping, I think it should go further south, because I kind of look at it going, okay, and I've raised this as part of originally when we were upgrading our lighting. I said the lighting on Yonge Street is poor. It's so dark, right? There's lighting missing everywhere. It needs to go all the way down to Henderson. Now I look at it, it's like, okay, are we waiting for the bus rapid transit system when we're looking, to do improvements? So
I don't know what
I
we're
think it's
waiting for.
important. I think it's important that we participate, if those that can tomorrow, just to see what's being implemented. I think I have some idea, and again, I'm going to provide some suggestions, because again, I do enough review and things and see if there's anything that we could leverage or do differently than what's being proposed. But I welcome that, and it's too bad that it come to this committee prior to the public open house.
Could you email us about that?
The locations.
It could.
Absolutely.
It could come to this committee. I just want to tell you, this is part of the official plan of 2010.
Already going up to 10 soon.
And the first proposal was so expensive that we couldn't do it at that time. So I'm not sure what we are going to be able to do. For sure, we are not going to be able to put trees, which is very disappointing. Because as you said, you'd have to tear up the infrastructure. So I would welcome your comments. It would be good certainly to have some street furniture, because some of us are getting older, and it'd be nice to be able to sit down as we're walking along Yonge Street.
Trees.
Thanks
Sorry.
for bringing that up.
I think that as it relates to trees are very finicky, and you really need
Yeah, we can.
soil and space, and we can do fake trees with lights. I mean, it would be like Las Vegas, do something different.
No, thank you. But guys,
That doesn't require any watering.
I'm just going to
You
put
do
in.
solar lights on it, lights at night. Just throwing stuff out there. There's a lot of things you can do.
Maybe okay, throw it out. But as we are getting into a position where we really need trees where pedestrians walk and in shopping centers, and it's just going to be so hot. I was thinking more of it from just the appeal of trees, but I'd like to see what you come up with. This sounds interesting. Anything solar would be really great too.
I proposed it elsewhere and got some from my
Really? Well, that the
urban design people, but anyway, you have to leave. I'm sorry, you got to throw everything on the table. Why not? Okay, let's think outside the box. What are other people doing? Okay, when you visit, we all go traveling. I don't know anything else. So there's so many things that when you do this, you go to Europe and you're like going, oh, okay, and you look at what they do. Now, I know Europe is, developing during the medieval times when it's horse and buggy, no different than downtown Toronto, it's horse and buggy, all the older areas. But there are certain elements that you could look at and say, okay, how do we identify our little core little area? How do we say, and I always say, guys, if you want people to come to this, you need to have, what's the attraction? We've created that attraction, okay? So now how do we improve that?
How about sculptures of trees?
Well, maybe that's something to throw out there, get people to wood carve something for you.
Well-
I'm actually glad you mentioned that. In Orangeville, every time I go by, I see those sculptures there. Actually, that's a great
Well,
idea.
thank you.
Throw it out there.
I
Maybe
think
we have
we
some
need
sculptures that are willing to do something. Civic art, I don't know if that's a
art. We
priority
need
for
wall
us.
art, folks. We need wall art.
Glad you reminded me, so I'll throw that out.
Paintings. I've put it forward many times, but I've never put forward sculptures of trees. And you know what? The artificial plants these days look so real. Maybe we could do artificial trees.
I like
Be
the civic
talking
art.
point. Anyway, thank you. And I think we can have a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Lil and Gino. All those in favor? This has been a most interesting meeting. I thought it was going to be fast and
That one I show up. Sorry.
everybody, and this has been a great meeting. Thank you to everybody. And thank you, Julia. And thanks to staff, 3 staff members here at the table. Very much appreciated your time. Okay, we're going to vote on adjournment. All those in favor? Oh, I need somebody to
Yeah,
put the motion.
yeah.
Oh, we did.